Well, folks, there is a tingle in the air. The winds are changing. Fall is quickly approaching, at least in the Northeast, where it's currently 65 and rainy, aka RGT style weather. But there's a smell in the air, a hint of something happening this week. An alleged Nintendo Direct presentation. We have had several different people say that there is a Nintendo Direct presentation happening this week, and now everyone's got the end of the week circled on their calendar. It's allegedly happening on the 11th or the 12th. I'm more leaning towards the 12th. I do understand that Nintendo is not a primary American company. They are definitely Japanese based, but you know, optics, 9/11, you know, what went down at Building 7. We're not going to get into all that stuff, but what we are going to focus on is the Nintendo Direct itself. Now, there have been several outlets that have said that there is going to be a Nintendo Direct happening on either the 11th or the 12th. Video Games Chronicle said something was happening in September. Switch Force pretty much came out and said that it's going to be on the 12th, and shout outs to Switch Force. Like, I'm happy that he's got good sources, because now that's another area of information that people can take into account when talking about potential leaks and rumors. And honestly, I hope he's right. People think I hate that dude for some reason because I'll joke about him sometimes, and like I joke about Nintendo Prime. If I'm joking about someone, more than likely I don't hate them, especially if we're just keeping it on a video game level. Now, there have been instances where I've taken personal shots at individuals on this channel from time to time with videos, but that's because I don't like those people. I don't like them as a person, and I don't care about their content. I'm talking about the person itself. If I'm just making jokes about someone, and when it comes to their video game opinions or their leaks or stuff like that, it's all good in the hood. And if people don't like me because of that, I mean, that's fine. That's their prerogative. Then, of course, Nate the Hate came along and said either the 11th or 12th is the perceived date of this event. But there's been quite a few questions as far as what type of Direct is this going to be, because there are different things happening right now that you could kind of pinpoint to a potential for what this Direct is going to entail. I think the least likely situation would be a Metroid Prime 4 blowout Direct that is strictly focused on Metroid Prime 4. I don't think that that's what Nintendo necessarily wants to do right now. Do they need to do something like that? I mean, it wouldn't hurt. I'm not going to be against it. Although, generally speaking, I'm not a huge fan of single game events that are directs or state of plays and stuff like that. But in the case of Metroid Prime 4, like, it's been so damn long. This is an exclusive game, and I am very interested in Metroid Prime 4. This is one of my games of 2025 that I'm very excited for. So I wouldn't mind necessarily getting a blowout of information. I do hope that there is online multiplayer. I know I'm setting myself up for failure with that. I know it's not going to be there, but I love Metroid Prime Hunters so much that I would love to see it there. However, I do not think that that is what this week's Direct is going to involve. Now, the second theory is something that I think does have a better chance, but if I have to be honest, I'm kind of hoping it's not going to be this either. And that is a Mario 40th anniversary blowout celebration. Now, let's be clear, I love Mario games. Super Mario 64 is in my top 5. Super Mario Odyssey was one of my favorite games, if not my favorite game, on the original Nintendo Switch. So I am a fan of our plumber friend. However, I can go a little bit without finding out what his next adventures are. I don't think that reading the room is going to say, hey, we need to talk about a bunch of Mario stuff, because you know it's not just going to be game-related stuff. There's going to be other stuff involved with that too. That's cool. I get wanting to do one of those, and I do think that at some point in time they will talk more about Mario's 40th anniversary, potentially in our third option as well. But as far as like a full-on Mario presentation, I don't know if I really need that right now, because the real question is, what the hell are you going to show? Like, you're going to redo some DS games and stuff like that? Like, I don't know. I guess that would be cool. Kind of. Depends what, you know, what you do with it. But I do feel like most Mario games are very well represented on the Nintendo Switch, and by extension, Nintendo Switch 2. So I'm not sure if I need a dedicated event for that this week. And then we get into our third option, and this is probably the option I want the most, and I think is the most likely option, and that is a general Nintendo Direct, because boy, oh boy, is that exactly what this needs. Because realistically speaking, you could talk about a Metroid Prime 4 release date in a general Nintendo Direct. You could show off more of that game and then be like, hey, tune in a week from now to see a Metroid Prime 4 Direct event where we deep dive into the game for 15 to 20 minutes. I don't need the 40 minutes like we got with Kirby Air Riders. Sorry, not sorry. I don't need to see 40 minutes of that game. And I don't necessarily need to see 40 minutes of Metroid Prime 4. Unless there's multiplayer, then you could show me 40 minutes of it. But I think that would make sense to be in a general Direct. You could do like a 10-minute Mario thing within a general Nintendo Direct as well and be like, hey, tune in 2 weeks if you want to see more, or just focus on games that would be available in Mario's 40th anniversary celebration. But I think the general Direct is exactly what people want and exactly what people need for a multitude of reasons. The obvious reason that everyone is going to gravitate towards, and I think can completely agree on, would be to kind of outline, okay, well, what's next for the Nintendo Switch 2? You know, Kirby Air Riders is 2025. I believe it comes out, what, November or something like that. Metroid Prime 4 is still, hopefully, 2025. Hyrule Warriors, Age of Imprisonment. That, of course, looks like a early 2026 game. But I want to start talking about other stuff. I want to start talking about what's in the pipeline coming out and coming within the first half of 2026, because 2025 is rapidly coming to a close, and I feel like most of at least the bigger games that we know about them. We know what they're going to bring to the table. We have already established if we are going to buy these games or not. Game like Pokemon Legends ZA, no, I'm not buying that. Like, no thank you. I'm good on that. But a game like Kirby Air Riders, I mean, I still don't want to buy that either, but I probably will just to review it. Metroid Prime 4 and Hyrule Warriors. I feel like we've seen those games. We know what those games bring to the table, and we know if we are going to purchase those games. But we need to know about what's coming out after that are first-party titles. And then is the thing that's probably not a very popular opinion, but it's my opinion, and it's something I'm going to say. I want a barrage of third-party games. I want like a stupid amount of third-party games, and let me tell you why. Because I think it makes perfect sense to have a barrage of third-party games right now, because a lot of the newer games haven't been confirmed for the Nintendo Switch 2. And I'm not even necessarily talking about the newer games that are coming out in 2026, the tail end of 2026, 2027 and stuff like that. I'm good on waiting to hear if those are coming to the Switch 2. I want games that came out on the PS5 and the Xbox Series, and I want them to be brought over to the Switch 2 for one primary reason. It's not even necessarily about the game itself. It's about getting these engines on the system. It's about companies starting to understand how to develop things for the Nintendo Switch 2. It's about companies realizing limitations, what they can do to circumvent those limitations, utilizing things like DLSS, because third-party ports right now are the wild, wild west. You don't know if it's going to be a great port or a crappy port. Games that look like they're going to be crappy ports, like Star Wars Outlaws, somehow end up being the most impressive. And then games that should have been a surefire thing, such as NBA 2K26, is at 30 frames per second, yet WWE 2K25 is at 60 frames per second. Obviously, companies are needing more time to work on these systems. And if you're introducing some games that have come out a couple of years ago or something like that, that maybe won't sell extremely great, but they've never been on a Nintendo platform before, this allows you time to understand the system and figure out what you can do to get these games running better. And that's all I'm really concerned about, is more so the future. I understand that when a system comes out, especially a weird system like a Nintendo Switch 2, which is obviously not quite up there in terms of power as the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, companies are going to have a little bit of a learning curve to understand how to bring these ports and these games over to the system. But if we start getting that out of the way now, we can look forward to the future of third-party games having more parity. A game like NBA 2K26, it runs at 60 frames on the Series S. And you're going to tell me that it can't run at 60 frames on the Switch 2, even though Star Wars Outlaws runs better than the Series S version does, even though Street Fighter 6 looks better on the Switch 2 than the Series S does. This is obviously just ironing out kinks. And I think there's a ton of great games. You can even look at PS4 games and Xbox One games like the Resident Evil remakes and stuff like that. Where the hell are those games? Like, that seemed like something that would be there at day one so that you could have the future of Resident Evil games on Nintendo platforms. I want a barrage of third-party games. I don't care if they're games that people love. I don't care if they're games that people hate. It's worth trying it out, though, just to get your feet wet, to figure out the technical aspects of the system and figure out how you can utilize this system to your capability. So that's what I want from a Nintendo Direct this week. I want a general Nintendo Direct that tells me about upcoming first-party games and has a litany of third-party games. And just, you know, oh, we solved the dev kit problem. Now everyone can announce, where's the Microsoft games? You know, it seems like there's companies that are just holding back stuff. And it's like, why are you holding this back? It's time to let it out there. The system is here. Now we have to keep momentum going if you're a Nintendo. And what better way to do that than to show you, hey, not only can you play these awesome first-party Nintendo games that people buy the system for, but we've got all these third-party games as well. The choice is yours as a consumer. But let me know in the comments section down below. What are you hopeful for? What are you hoping to see in this Nintendo Direct presentation? If it even happens. I guess if it doesn't happen, then we're going to have a whole nother conversation about the leaks and stuff like that. But I'm pretty confident something is going to happen. So we just got to wait and see. When that announcement comes up, we'll talk about it again, and hopefully we're talking about a general Nintendo Direct, because oh boy, I might get a little bit spicy if we're not. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, be sure to like, comment, and share, hit the bell as well, and as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.